Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing Caught Stealing. This was directed by Darren Aronofsky. I admire Aronofsky, but I have struggled a lot with his films over time, and if you have watched my reviews up to this point, you know that, but particularly in the last few years, when The Whale came out as an example, that film felt like kind of a misfire. It was overwrought thematically, and it felt like with that film he was a little bit lost creatively, and I really did wonder what direction his career would take after that point. It felt like he needed a shift. And I would say that Caught Stealing meets him kind of at that crossroads. He's a lot more relaxed here. It's like he has more artistic confidence with this one, where he doesn't have to get into all these like labored, lofty explanations of what he's doing. I just felt a flow from him in the movement, the energy of the film that I haven't felt in a long time, maybe since Requiem for a Dream, honestly, but maybe from like an older, more restrained perspective this time. This is a beautifully directed film. I think, the sense of scale, the spirit of New York City is captured so well as this backdrop for like this punk neo-noir odyssey. It's both epic and intimate. It's like there's this cinematic quality, a scale to everything, obviously. It feels more expensive, and yet you feel the sense of like cramped claustrophobia, which is exactly how New York City feels. Erratic, yet also controlled, and it's like they're able to capture everything within the frame that does feel like dingy and personal and broken in. The mise-en-scene, honestly, is one of my favorite aspects of the entire film. It kind of gave me that thrill of when I was a child getting like a new Where's Waldo book, where you're just like going through the pages looking at all the interesting images, scenarios on the page. The cynicism in this film is very Darren Aronofsky, and I think, there's always this undercurrent, this commentary on America, ever present. Even if this film does take place in the 1990s, as an example, I think it only magnifies the perspective of today, because we see things as they once were, and it's like right on the cusp of gentrification, right before 9/11, right before America changed really forever. And that battered darkness always in the film, I think it works well because it feels almost like this like bruising on the outer layer of the more eccentric elements, the more cartoonish elements. Yet no matter what throughout the film, you always feel this yearning of hope through the pain. And there's a lot of pain in this film, and that pain is quite unpredictable, and I loved that as well. Austin Butler plays the main character in this film, and he hits all the beats I think he needs to in this film. It is a very simple plot, which allows for a lot of hijinks to ensue. Austin Butler's character, he's just one of those guys who's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he gets sucked into this horrible nightmare of a situation. But it is important, obviously, because it is going to test him, and it forces him to become active in a life where he's clearly quite lost. There is a weariness to his character because he has a backstory that you learn early on in the film, but he obviously has that natural kind of ease, that boyish charm to him that we love about Austin Butler. But he can be convincingly chaotic in this movie because he has to do a lot of slapstick comedy. This is a character who is constantly trying to find his footing, and I mean that quite literally. He falls all the time in this movie, and he commits to that physicality, particularly in the action sequences. He's grimacing, he's throwing himself into everything in a way that is admirable. And with Butler, it's like I've always been intrigued by him. It's like I can see the star power and the mystery to him, and yet there's not been a role, at least that I have seen, where I feel like he's fully eased into that movie star persona, where it enhances it all perfectly. But I think this was a great step in the right direction because it wasn't just a star party. Like, it demanded some range from him, and I feel like he's starting to find his rhythm in this movie as it goes along, and by the end of it, I felt pretty on board. His chemistry with Zoe Kravitz, it's the stuff Hollywood dreams are made of. This is exactly what you want from a Hollywood film. They crackle. She is Catwoman. I think she will always be associated with that character, and I don't have a problem with that. She's comfortable in her body and in her sex appeal in a way that is very bohemian. It's like she has this grace about her, but also that spunk that I like. And Butler has this quality where it's like he's withdrawn, but there's almost like this calm elegance that is the perfect frame for her more kind of feline sexiness, and no pun intended. But where the film suffers for me a little bit is it feels a little bit surface level when it's trying to shift between the comedy and the darker elements of the movie. I don't think it marries the tones as well as it could have. I've talked about Aronofsky in the past, and I've talked a lot about the humor in his films and how it seems to be growing the more and more you see of him, and how it's a strange type of humor, not what you're used to. It's like he's leaning into this camp factor, this cartoonishness, particularly with movies like Black Swan or Mother. Definitely more so in a movie like Mother, and I've never been fully on board with it, but I always find it interesting. It definitely sets Darren apart as a director, and I've kind of always wanted to see him probe that more, see how far he can take it. But obviously this is a different type of movie for him, so this is not necessarily the direction that I meant. The humor here is naturally more safe because it is a more traditional film, less experimental. Some might compare this more to Tarantino, but to me, this has Guy Ritchie written all over it. And I was never a huge fan of Guy Ritchie films, but I think so far as Caught Stealing is concerned, I think the humor kind of lacks that bite and that originality. I think it gets a little bit lost in like the murkiness, the danger elements of the film. And I also think it feels a little bit too self-aware when it comes to like the attempted cleverness, and therefore it makes the comedy feel more forced. And you have this Rolodex of characters. Some of them are interesting, but they all do feel kind of conveniently quirky, you know? It feels a little bit caught in the threshold sometimes, but at the same time, it is quite solid. And there is a lot to like here as well. While he may not be at the top of his game, at least, you know, by my estimation, I still think that Aronofsky is having fun, at least with this movie. And that, again, that punk rock industrial edge, it is very Aronofsky. I would pay maybe a matinee. I don't know if I would go full price for it, but matinee, solid stream, there you go. But that is the review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you're interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch my videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.